HOA blocked off my ranch with a fence, so I turned the gate into a private toll road asterisk. So, I own a sizable piece of land, about 60 acres of ranch property passed down from my grandfather. It's been in my family for generations. It's not part of any subdivision, no HOA contract, nothing like that. Just clean, private, country land with a long dirt road that runs from the main county highway all the way to my ranch house and pastures. Now, years ago, the road was nothing but a dirt trail. Over time, as the area developed, a new neighborhood got built on some adjacent land, and the only viable access for them to get out to the main road was to use a portion of my dirt road. My grandfather had no problem with that. He believed in being a good neighbor. So he allowed it. No contract, no payment, just an old-school handshake deal. Fast forward a few years later, and that neighborhood had grown into a full-blown HOA-controlled community. New board members, new residents, and a whole new attitude. Suddenly they're talking about paving their road, putting in signs, and guess what? One day I come home and there's a metal fence with a keypad gate installed right across the road that leads to my ranch. They literally blocked off the road that leads to my own property without so much as a warning or notice. I was furious. Contacted the HOA board, and guess what they said? "Sir, this gate is for the safety and security of our residents. You'll have to request access like any other visitor to my own ranch." I told them the land and the road section they fenced in was on my property line, and they had absolutely no right to block it. Their response? "Our surveyor says otherwise." Big mistake. I pulled up the land deeds, surveys, and historical documentation showing that the road, including the stretch they fenced off, was 100% on my land. I even had an updated county GIS map confirming it. Still, they refused to remove the gate, said I had to take it up with the HOA attorney. All right, game on. I hired a real property lawyer, sent them formal cease and desist letters. They ignored them, so I did what any reasonable landowner would do. I got creative. See, they installed that gate to control my road. Fine, if they want to use my road, they're going to pay for it. I filed for a business license in the county for a private toll road operation using GPS mapping data and county permits. I had a second gate built right before their gate. Only difference? Mine came with a toll booth, digital payment system, and security cameras. Then I placed a huge sign, "Private road toll, required for access. $3 per entry, trespassers will be prosecuted." And yes, by law, I could do this because it was on private land. They wanted to play legal games. I played harder. The next morning, chaos erupted. Residents of the HOA community were lined up, honking, confused. I had a booth attendant politely directing them to pay the toll. Some tried to argue, but cameras were rolling and the rules were clear. Pay the toll or turn around. The HOA president called me in a rage, demanded I remove the booth. I said, "I'll consider it." "After you take your gate down?" She refused, so I raised the toll $5 per entry, $7 during rush hour, monthly unlimited pass. Some of the residents were actually supportive. They didn't mind the toll once they found out their own HOA was in the wrong. But the board? Oh, they were livid. Tried to file an injunction, but the court sided with me. My documents were airtight. Eventually, the pressure from the neighborhood got so intense that the HOA caved. They removed the gate, sent a formal apology, even offered a settlement for the inconvenience. I took the money and donated it to a local farming charity. As for the toll booth, I left it up for fun. It's free now, but still standing as a reminder. You mess with the bull, you get the toll asterisk. About 2 months later, I noticed something strange. A few of their board members started driving around the toll road using an old cattle trail that cuts through a wooded area near the back of my land. It hadn't been used in years and wasn't even on any map. But somehow, they found it and started telling their residents that it was a public access route. Now, I'm not someone who likes confrontation, but I am someone who believes in setting boundaries, literally and legally. So I checked the trail. Lo and behold, it was still part of my deeded land. I even found an old survey marker half buried in dirt just to confirm. It wasn't a public anything. It was my private land they were trespassing on. So this time, I didn't bother with lawyers or notices. I put up wildlife cameras, caught several HOA board members driving on the trail. Then I did something they absolutely didn't expect. I turned the trail into a wildlife conservation path. Yup, filed for a small conservation easement grant with the state. Designated the entire trail as a protected wildlife corridor. Posted signs along it. Nitrogen monoxide. Vehicles protected land violators will be fined under State Conservation Code 6-102. And just like that, anyone using that trail could face state-level environmental fines. That included the HOA board members. But I didn't stop there. I hosted a community event at the ranch, Family Wildlife Day. Invited local schools, nature lovers, and even county officials. Showed off the conservation work, gave free tours, even had a little BBQ going. Guess who showed up? It's one of the county commissioners, who happened to also live in the HOA neighborhood. He pulled me aside and said, "You know, I always wondered why they put that gate up in the first place. Looks like you've handled it better than I could have." That weekend, the trail went radio silent. No cars, no sneaky detours. Just birds, deer, and peace. But the cherry on top. A few months later, the HOA president resigned. Word got out that she'd spent over $40,000 of the HOA's budget on legal fees trying to keep control of a road they didn't own. And lost. The new board is much more cooperative. In fact, they reached out to me and asked if I'd be willing to lease access rights to my road under a formal contract. I said sure, but this time came with conditions, annual maintenance fees, clause, that no permanent structures or gates could ever be installed. Agani wanted a seat as a non-voting advisory member on the HOA board. They agreed. Now, every time there's a board meeting about property access or road issues, guess who's sitting in the room sipping coffee? It's right, me. They tried to fence me out, and now they can't make a decision without me at the table. Sometimes, the best revenge is ownership asterisk. So now I'm sitting on the HOA board as an advisory member, no voting power, but my presence alone made some of the new board members extra polite. They'd go out of their way to greet me, try to keep things civil. But not everyone had learned their lesson. One guy in particular, Greg, he was the new vice president, a real by-the-book type, except the book he followed was apparently written in crayon by someone who'd never read a legal deed. Greg didn't like the fact that someone outside the neighborhood had any say at all Evan advisory. I caught wind that he'd been rallying a small group of residents, saying I was milking the HOA for access fees and holding them hostage with a private toll road. So guess what Greg does? Organizes a petition inside the HOA to have the board renegotiate or revoke the agreement we signed. Now legally, that contract was locked tight. Any breach on their part would cost them tens of thousands in penalties. But Greg, he thought he'd found a loophole. He claimed the HOA could declare eminent domain on the road if it was vital to community access. I laughed when I heard that. Eminent domain. From a suburban HOA, it's not how any of this works. But they actually tried to escalate it to the county planning board. Big mistake. Again, because remember that commissioner I mentioned? One who came to my wildlife event? Let's just say he was not impressed by Greg's little crusade. The commissioner personally shut the whole thing down at the next planning board meeting. Called it one of the most laughable misinterpretations of property law he'd ever seen. Even mentioned my ranch as a model example of land stewardship. Greg turned red as a fire truck in front of everyone. But I wasn't done yet. See, Greg made this personal, so I made sure to hit him where it really hurt. His wallet, I found out Greg ran a little landscaping business on the side, using his HOA connections to get contracts in the neighborhood. The same neighborhood whose road passed through my land, so I added a new clause to my road lease contract. Commercial vehicles using the road must apply for a separate access permit, $500 annual fee per business. Guess who suddenly needed that permit? Yup. GREGI sent him a certified letter with the permit application. He ignored it. Next week, my cameras caught his truck rolling down the road with equipment in the back. That was unauthorized commercial use. So I billed him $1,000, $500 for the permit. and $500 penalty for unlicensed use. He tried to fight. It said it was harassment, so I sent it to collections. 3 months later, Greg's small business license got flagged for unresolved debt, and he was forced to shut down until he paid up. He eventually did. But after that, he resigned from the HOA board quietly. No speech, no drama. Just faded away, and the toll booth, it's still standing. Still no toll, just a nice little security checkpoint now. Residents drive through it every day without a second thought. The roads maintained clean and safe. All thanks to the man they once tried to block out. Sometimes I sit on my porch, drink a cold, sweet tea, and watch their SUVs roll by. Funny how the road they tried to fence off from me now runs right through my terms, my land and my peace.